Good morning, everyone, and afternoon to anyone who is on the eastern border. My name is Onedeige. My name is Onedeige James, and I'm coming to you from New York City. I am with BetaNYC, and I will be talking to you today about one of our projects, Manhattan's Disappearing Religious Structures. Now, as a civic data analyst, one of my first projects with BetaNYC, as an intern, as a matter of fact, we wanted to address a radar that was brought to us, data assistance request that was brought to us, and that's what we'll be going through today. Many of the religious facilities in Manhattan, we've realized, have been slowly declining, or they've just been going into disrepair. These religious facilities, or RFs, as I will call them from now on, hold both a cultural and historic connotation while providing much needed resources for the communities they support. Many of the Manhattan's religious facilities are disappearing, and MPPO wanted to study this phenomenon. The main crisis is commercial real estate development taking advantage of the current weaknesses currently being experienced by religious facilities. As membership declines and community demographics change, maintenance becomes a burden, and these RFs are often convinced that the only course of action is to give up their most valuable asset and relocate their land and their air rights. So the background for this is how it came to BetaNYC. We got a data request from NYU's capstone team to answer a few questions. This had been going back a few years, but these are some of the questions that they wanted answered for the part that I've worked on. How many churches are there in Manhattan, or religious facilities to be specific, across a 10-year period? Were the building use designation changed or switched out? How many have landmark designation or historical protection? How many are adjacent to vacant lots or potential soft sites? And what is the average lot size and FAR? The important thing to note is these religious facilities and churches and any religious establishment, they're usually very important to the community. And currently, especially during COVID, these areas provide like essentials such as food distribution, language services, even financial services, and there's a shared and trusted community knowledge. The decline of these religious facilities reduces the services to immigrant populations that these congregations support. And there are some churches that actually we found don't have enough funds to even fix their own infrastructure compared to other churches that may have their own private funding. And that puts a strain on communities and the community services that they provide. Another aspect to look at as well are, in addition to the food banks, these religious facilities also offer census and COVID education and translation services, which is really important because a lot of people choose their community services for information, and that's usually one of the main sources within smaller communities and smaller demographics. So the solution. When the Manhattan Borough Office, President's Office Land Use Committee submitted RADAR, which is a research and data assistance request, we worked on getting data around like lot size, locations, ownership, historical landmark status, built and unbuilt FAR, proximities to other lots, zoning, land use, liens, etc. All of this over the last 10 years. We wanted to create a method of delivery that was user friendly to inform policy and issue awareness. So a detailed report was formulated, and the report was actually used in the Religious Facilities Action Book, which was created by the NYU Wagner team. And then our team, myself, created a story map to inform the public of the problem and steps that could be taken to address it. That was the purpose of this project. So now findings. What we found in our initial analysis was using the Department of City Planning Bites of the Big Apple, which is a free open software and digital and data geographic base map files. It's called, we use specifically Pluto and Map Pluto, which is CSV and a map. We use that to analyze the vulnerable religious facilities using historical data. We had initially planned on building a simple regression model to help to make these predictions. However, from our research, we found that there were too many unique cases and too few samples in Manhattan to build an accurate model. We aggregated the data set from 2010 to 2020 using using the 2020 Pluto data set. And what we found were, based on the landmark and historical designations, 10.4% were categorized as such. Most RFs with large unbuilt FARs were already transferred or sold, some or all of their air rights. Of the 1,025 lots in the Pluto data set over the 10-year period, 167 lots have underwent building class changes, 131 were adjacent to vacant lots or potential soft sites, 35 had water liens according to the Department of Finance's digital tax map. 2 points to note with these findings is that vulnerability was something that we had to define for ourselves, and we had to decide, okay, what made a particular site vulnerable, and in addition to that, we had to define what a soft site was, in addition to the vacant lots. So we took any site that was basically adjacent, like one parcel touching another parcel or directly across from a parcel that was available for development, whether it was like a parking lot or a vacant parking lot, a vacant lot, what else? Parking lot, vacant lot, and give me 1 second. Parking garages, or miscellaneous public parking area, or whether it's a residential garage or a commercial garage space. So, and as for the liens, we were only able at the time to classify water liens according to the tax map, but there may have been other liens on these properties that we didn't look into. We also did a pretty comprehensive breakdown of the different use changes, as you can see on the right in that table for the 167 religious facilities and how they changed uses. And what we found was that majority of these changes were actually changed to some type of condo development. Okay, I am going to just briefly run through the story map that was created out of this. It will be updated in the future, but I just wanted to point out that the target audience for this was friends of religious facilities and the public of Manhattan and New York City residents, and the main points of focus were the locations of the religious facilities in each district, neighborhood, and the different clusters, the decline of the religious facilities over the 10-year period, the use change from a religious facility to condominium use, the circumstances that put these facilities at risk, the high costs of maintenance, prime locations, and the availability of other nearby lots. We were hesitant to put certain vulnerabilities on here, like the 131 locations that were adjacent to vacant lots or potential soft sites, because we felt that that was a privacy issue in terms of we didn't want to further risk those locations by making it public. I mean, yes, developers have access to open data, but we don't want to do the work for them and just provide it to them. So we didn't include that in our story map. Okay, so this is our story map. Manhattan's disappearing religious structures. We just did a brief overview on what these religious facilities provide, such as, community and art events, immigration assistance, homelessness assistance, food insecurity help, as well as services for women and children at risk. We touched on the decline, where in 10 years we declined from 976 facilities to 907. And these religious facilities include churches, synagogues, chapels, mission houses, parsonages, rectories, convents, and any other religious site for miscellaneous use. This is, we have some interactive visualizations that were included, and this is basically representing the decline from 2010 to 2020. And just a point to note, in Manhattan, the average real estate cost of a square foot is about $1,700 commercial. And once a religious facility is relocated, it is prime real estate space, which was previously a cornerstone for the community. And developers are very eager to grab up whatever they can, all these prime spots, even if it's just the ear rights above a church or a religious building. They will actually, we've seen cases where they would actually build on top of that property and just go over it. This changes the fabric of the neighborhood. Here we have all the red dots are signifying all the religious facilities currently in Manhattan, and the blue polygons indicate all the protected sites, the historic districts, where they're a little they fall under some protection. But as you can see, where the clusterings happen, the tight clusterings hardly have any type of protection. So we have 80 historic districts, 9% are protected by landmarks. And let's go. We kind of gave a breakdown of the protected and protected facilities by neighborhood, because we felt it was important for everybody to be able to identify what's going on within their neighborhoods. So we kind of did, where you have landmarks, where you have historical district protection, where you have unprotected, as well as where you have it's protected both by historical designations as well as landmark. We also wanted to focus on some interesting areas such as Harlem, which has a large concentration of religious facilities, as well as a number of vulnerable sites, as well as the Lower East Side, as we had seen on the overview shot earlier. We only have like 3 protected sites. So as previously mentioned, 167 changes were made to religious facilities. Over the last 10 years, we found that 27 were converted to condo use, 53 were sold for residential or commercial use, 13 sold and are currently vacant, and 74 converted to other uses, whether private or otherwise. And these are all happening where they lack landmark and historic designations. This is one example over here, and this is the rendering of the new space that is being built. Okay, let me go back to my presentation. There we go. All right, so how has this progressed? Basically, the MBPO submitted a radar, and we gave some data initially to work with. It snowballed. Religious Facilities Task Force was created out of it. Then the NYU Wagner team joined the conversation and did some field work and crowdsourcing. And then the NYU Wagner team came back to us with some fine-grained questions. And now we created the report for them, as well as the story map that is a companion document along with the action book that they are creating. So based on this work, faith-based leaders from over 40 different religious facilities are now aware of this issue, and will also have guidance from the action book and hopefully find the right path forward. And the name of the action book is Religious Organizations in Manhattan, an action book for planning your future. This is so that they will have a way to turn to, so they just don't succumb to developers' demands, and they don't feel like they can feel like they have options when it comes to before they surrender their land or air rights. And thank you. These are just a few snapshots of my time as a Civic Innovation Fellow. When I was part of that cohort, it's two semester internship program. And yeah, thank you so much. And Catherine, I don't know if you have any questions.
Yes, well, thank you so much. That was a great presentation, and really taking us through the whole step-by-step process, I think will be really informative and helpful for our COVID-19 Data Challenge participants. And we're almost out of time. Maybe one question that I think might help our participants. The story map is really a fantastic and useful outcome. They probably would be focusing on the pieces leading up to the story map. So I guess my question is, did you, so it's formulating the problem, which you described really beautifully, and then the what data are needed and how you collected the data. And that's really what our data challenge participants will be focusing on. And then was that all, you showed one nice sort of hand drawing, it looked like, of the story map, right? So
Yes.
Was that then all, we're not expecting necessarily finished products like the story map, you know, within the period of time we have for our data challenge, but was that then turned over to somebody else, or did one team continue to work and develop that story map?
Well, actually, this was, the story map was actually my project. So that the entire story map was mine. And I was actually I was on a team that worked on the report that was submitted to the NYU Wagner team to create the action book. And it was from that report that the story map was created. Now, I did mention, like, the first thing you need to do is you need to think about your target audience. If you're thinking about the story map in particular, you need to think about your target audience, because that will determine like how much info you want to share. Because if you just launch into it, there might be so many intricacies and little tidbits of information that you might want to focus on, but then you're like, wait a minute, it's actually leading away from the story a little bit. Let's refocus. So you want to actually focus first on what you're trying to say. So it's like, what is my target audience want? What are they looking to get out of this? And then from there, you're like, okay, what are like 3 main points that I want to give this target audience? And then break it down from there. And that will determine what type of visualizations you need from your analysis. Like what type of visualizations you need, what type of maps you need, what type of charts, how to make those charts. Like I said, when I was going through the story map, we did a breakdown of the protected and protected sites, and we wanted to give it to the audience in a way that they will understand it. So we did it by neighborhood instead of what we usually do, which is by district or community board. We wanted to be able to identify with the audience. So you have to think about these things. How are they going to absorb it? What's going to make it easier for them? How are they going to how are you going to make it more interactive and appealing for the people that you are actually presenting this story map to?
Great answer, and that was exactly the kind of thing that I think will be super helpful to our participants, particularly keeping your audience in mind. We're unfortunately out of time, but thank you so much for giving this great lightning talk, and I'll be sure to let you know how our participants are doing. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, and good luck to all the participants.
Thanks. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.